All right, everyone, you've probably heard of the term barnstorming within politics. Biden doesn't really do that. If anything, he does exactly the opposite. No, he does penthouse-storming. That's what he's planning to do in San Francisco and Seattle, as well as a few other stops along the way over the coming weeks. He's going to the West Coast into his Echochamber, where he'll have a warm reception except among the Gaza protesters, I'm sure, on certain campuses, to beg for cash to hold fundraising events. I thought that you were well ahead of Trump in terms of fundraising totals. Shouldn't you be doing like regular campaign rallies right now, or maybe attempting to manage the multiple problems that you've caused around the world, not just in the United States? After all, you're supposedly the commander-in-chief and shit. Don't you have work to do? Now, he's decided to take some time off to go to the penthouse clubs and do his $5,000 plate galas, and maybe he'll make an appearance for the little folk here and there. This is Biden's biggest problem. He doesn't appeal to rural America, nor do Democrats generally speaking. Just like, Donald Trump is not going to get a warm reception if he goes to San Francisco. There'd probably be protests more than there would be people in attendance. If he goes, though, to small town California or rural California, there'll be people that'll be flying Trump flags from their tractors and saying yee-haw. Trump controls rural and small-town America completely. The real fight is going to be in suburbia more than anything else, or some of the smaller cities maybe around the country. Not Burlington, though. Burlington will go 80% for Joe Biden at least. Now, Biden's problem is that in order to make money, he has to keep sucking off big corporations and big donors. The majority of his money is coming from big corporations. There was a time in the past, this is quite some time ago, when I think 2012 was the last election cycle in which this held true. The big money disproportionately went to the GOP. And that was because of the neocon corporatist economic model pioneered by second-term Reagan and carried up through the Bush dynasty. The idea was, it wasn't ever actually called trickle-down, but in effect it was tax cuts that disproportionately leaned towards the upper classes. The idea being taking less stress, especially off businesses, would raise wages and everyone else would be happy and you'd control inflation at the same time. It met with only limited success over that period of time. It helped to slow down the inflationary damage to the economy caused by neoliberal policies on the juxtaposed side, which are a little bit different. Not much different, but they're fine-tuned a little bit more. They don't include the business tax relief. They go in the other direction, causing problems with the economy. By the way, Biden wants to do that himself. He wants to skyrocket the capital gains tax, strangulating investment. For those who are minor investors, at least, it won't affect the people at the top because they have the tax havens and stuff like that. And they've got no problem. The tax code has been written so that the Dem and Uniparty donors in general are shielded from the repercussions that'll affect regional chains and people who have wealth, but they're not billionaires. So they have their accountant and their lawyer, but they don't have an army of accountants and lawyers. They have a national presence, but not necessarily a global presence. People like that. They have to. They don't have their own trade line set up. They have to use a third-party company, which is in turn then fucked by Joe Biden even more, raising prices everywhere in the world. Now, Biden can't do barnstorming. He can't go to small-town America and expect a warm reception, especially with his approval so deep underwater. So where does he go so that he doesn't have the optics, like when the TV cameras come? What you don't want is to have 1,000 people listening to you and 5,000 people outside protesting. That's not a good look. And people will chuckle at you. It's optically poor. And it ingrains in the minds of people, well, this is a person who's not really popular now, are they? Biden has had this problem before. Typically, at his get-togethers, it is a very small crowd of people. When Trump shows up, you get 10,000 people. And that's the low water mark is 4,000 or 5,000 people usually there. Biden struggles to get to that number as his high water mark. Meanwhile, while you have people protesting Trump events, it is scant compared to what you have at certain Biden events. That's why he holds few of them. These will be insular and sheltered incidents, I'm sure. They'll be closed-door events with a handful of rich donors. Some people will be allowed inside. They'll be the Harry Sissons of the world, the people that are on the DNC payroll to begin with. It's an echo chamber. Biden, in order to have a good rally, and I think part of it is that they script these things carefully because Joe Biden has a fragile ego. And he's been known for this throughout his political career. He does not like criticism. He does not take it well. Neither does Donald Trump, in all honesty, but, you know, when you get 10,000 people watching you and cheering you, and there's like 2 protesters outside, that's a legitimate ego boost. With Biden, it can go awry and go in the other direction. You'll have 2 people watching you and 10,000 protesters outside. Just wait till the Democratic convention. They're bracing for the worst. They're bracing for 1968 redux, maybe 1968 light. I don't think they're going to have 200,000 protesters there, but it could get dicey. So they very carefully tailor these events to make sure that Biden doesn't feel down about himself, because he legit has a fragile ego. He's also known to be indecisive. This has really hurt him. He's like McClellan. He's known by people who have known him as a senator, as VP, and so forth. He likes to be very strategic and lay out, well, you know, here's this policy, and then gets input from people, and he's like, okay, well, you make a good point. I think I'll go with Plan A. But Mr. President, you know, Plan B, blah, blah, blah. Okay, maybe I'll go with Plan B. But Plan C looks good, too. And then 5 days later, maybe he makes a decision, or just throws them all away and tries to fuse them together or something. He's known to be difficult to work with in that capacity. The opposite of why Donald Trump is difficult to work with. He's very foremost, and he says, no, I'm going with Plan B. But Mr. President, no, I don't want to hear it. No, go away. Plan B it is. You've got 2 different governing models here. Trump's works better because he's in the executive office. Biden is taking his Senate career into the White House. It's a problem with having former legislatures be in the presidency. Normally you do best if it's a former governor or a high-powered mayor or something like that. Someone with executive experience, because they're not the same. The kind of negotiating tactics you use on the House floor don't translate necessarily into leadership potential at the executive branch level, for example. I took a course in political science at UVM, one of the more advanced courses, and that was one of the points that were made. We went through the presidents and what they had been before the presidency. By the way, House Representatives members, if you want to become a president of the United States, you shouldn't try to leapfrog from the House to the presidency. Senate is a little better. Governor is best of all. Or in Trump's case, no prior political experience, big-time tycoon, and occasionally just legal experience. They were on the edge of the judiciary or something. It's also more rare. Usually it's a senator or a governor. Biden's problem is that if he wants big money, he can only get so much from the corporations, especially when I think right now some of them are looking at him and saying his approval is so low that feasibly it would be very difficult for him to be reelected. He has to make up a considerable amount of lost time. My money that I've been putting into him does not seem to have made an impact on that polling. So maybe I decide it's not a good idea to spend the next $10 million on his campaign or to fund the DNC. Maybe I should fund some of the down ballot races. Okay, I'm probably going to have to deal with President Trump 2.0. He's not going to be happy because I already donated $25 million to the DNC. Well, I can probably shelter myself if I buy a senator and a couple of representatives or something. Maybe I'll buy this mayor or 2, of my city. And they'll be able to shelter me in my business operations and, make the notes good, so to speak. So he has to go to places like Seattle, San Francisco, New York City. He's not getting any money from small town or rural America. He's given up on them, it seems. He never visits those places. You remember during 2020... and he'd occasionally go out to some cornfield in Iowa, and then they'd have those little circles because, distancing restrictions, and there'd be like 20 people there. This is a person running for the presidency, supposedly got 83 million votes in the process, by the way, bullshit, who can't even draw a crowd of 20 people. There was one famous incident where he was trying to barnstorm. He's given that up in this election cycle for not without good reason. There were more protesters than there were people. There were like 50 people watching him. There were like 100 pickup trucks lined up around the venue, honking incessantly, drowning him out entirely. I think he left that one early. Again, not without good reason. Now, Biden has to go to Frisco and Seattle in order to get more money, as though he wasn't flush enough to begin with his opponent constantly paying legal bills. That's about all. Peace out.